You are.
Okay. And these are perpetually rolling, right? This is the new perpetually rolling mode?
Yes.
Okay, so we will call to order the first meeting of 2016, starting with the roll. Commissioner Taylor.
Here, present.
Commissioner Silverstein.
Present.
Commissioner Miyagi. Here. Commissioner Ross.
Present.
Commissioner Zelka.
Here.
And Commissioner Gordon.
Here.
All right. We have, I'd like to propose a change to the agenda, moving the non-action item 3, the discussion and initial review of 1700 Embarcadero Road, to be our first order of business after the financial report.
Okay.
Any other changes or requests for deletions, modifications? Okay. Any oral communications? Any members of the public? No? Okay. All right, our first order of business is the approval of minutes, first from the 19th and then from the 14th. We have a motion to approve the minutes from the 19th. Folks have had a chance to read them. Approved. So I think we need a first before we can second it.
Oh, I thought you said.
Do we have a motion?
We have it. Oh.
I thought you were moving.
Okay, I moved to approve, and Commissioner Zelka seconds.
Yes.
And for the very weighty meeting that occurred at the holiday gathering. All right, you have to vote. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
I abstain.
Yeah, I abstained. I wasn't there.
Okay.
It looked fun. I saw the photos.
I move to approve the minutes from the holiday open house and workshop. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, wait, who got that?
You could.
Okay, Amanda got it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So
Same.
Abstain.
so moved. Aye. Okay, and now we have our staff comments.
Okay. Okay, so staff comments, I do not have a lot to discuss, except that it is the new year and we are starting it off with a bang with the installation you may have noticed in the lobby of the new artwork by Susan Narduli. So I will discuss it more in depth on the agenda later, but I did want to let everybody know, or any members of the public who are interested in coming to see it. This is our soft launch while we're getting to know the artwork and how it functions and working out some of the kinks. And we are planning to do an opening celebration event the evening of March 2nd. So please mark it on your calendars, and we'll have an invitation probably in the next couple weeks that hopefully you all will help distribute and bring your friends and family and get them all to comment and put their faces into the wall, because the more faces we have, the more robust it becomes.
Yes.
The other brief announcement or comment I have is that ARG has completed the phase 2 of the evaluation of the collection, and so we are anticipating bringing that back to the commission at our next meeting. So we're really excited to see that come through. So we'll be sharing that shortly.
Can you remind us, phase 2, how many pieces of work was that?
This was a big one. Nadia, do you remember exactly how many it was? It
I'm
was
sure we have it in
everything
packs.
remaining but the murals.
27 works, about that.
With what?
About 27, 28 works,
Okay.
somewhere there.
Okay. Thank you.
So essentially that leaves everything except for the murals for permanently sited work.
Wow.
That's done.
Great. That's fantastic.
That's it.
Okay. Should we move on to the financial report?
Yes. So, why don't we start with the Art and Public Places CIP? And so the only new item there is under commitments, is the funding for Chime. That's the musical piece that will be on King Plaza next summer. So that's the only change there. And so that, assuming the commission does undertake the other pack of approved future projects, that leaves us a little over $7,000 in the CIP. Are there any questions on that? So on the reverse side of that document is the municipal CIP. There's no change since the last time we reviewed this. So there is $159,000 left in that budget that's unencumbered thus far. Any questions on that one? No.
So we decided to change the cadence to this, doing it once a quarter.
Yes.
Which, did anyone know when we're getting the beginning of the year? Is everyone comfortable with just doing it once a quarter?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And then on the maintenance budget, there are just a couple of items on there. So you'll see the assessment phase 2 payment of just under $11,000 on there. And then we had some water sensors that we put into the art storage. On the new year, it seemed like a prudent thing to do. And those are the only 2 changes to the maintenance budget, which if you look, we are dead on to spend it straight down on time. So
That's great.
yep. And that's it for budgets.
All right. Okay then, we're going to move then to 1700 Embarcadero Road.
Great. So we do have a couple of consultants to the project who are here today. So we have Deke Snyder and Kirsten, is it Cessna? Okay. And Steve Emsley, are you just here observing, or are you going to join us?
I'm going to let them take care of the presentation.
Okay, so I'm going to invite both of you to come up here because we do need you to speak into the microphone for recording. So let's pull up the show. Scooch over.
See, all the presentations behind you is perfectly suited. I guess we got this one here.
It's everywhere.
Right. Well, thank you for the opportunity to come and speak to you guys tonight. My name is Deke Snyder. My colleague Kirsten Cessna, both of us work for Genzer Architects. Global company, however, the 2 of us happen to both live in Dallas, Texas, which is a long way away from Palo Alto, but our clients, the Fletcher Jones Motor Cars, is kind of a prevalent client across the West Coast. And this discussion is really how our public art incorporation will work in the new proposal, which is currently in the city for permit. We're still going through the ARB process. So what I thought we'd do is kind of step back and give a little background on the project, just if everyone hasn't heard about it. I don't know how. I know it's been in a few of the papers, but I'm not sure everybody's knowledge of it or fully aware of it. So the new location for this Mercedes-Benz store is at the corner of Embarcadero and Bayshore in the old Ming's Chinese restaurant. A very, very small site for the traditional type of car dealership, which you generally the typology you expect to be a very large, sprawling, all the cars. And frankly, kind of what it looks like right now, which is Audi using the entire site for parking. That is at the exact opposite of what the new proposal is, which is more of an urban vertical dealership model. Typology is a 4-story building. Everything is internal elevated. Very few cars on the ground. Almost everything contained inside the building. So out of necessity, efficiency of use of the site and so forth, that's kind of what we have. And we have a few of those images that are in the presentation, so you'll kind of see the size and mass of the building and so where some of the opportunities are for the artwork installation. We'd had a few opportunities to meet with Elise before, and we talked about where our opportunities could be on a project this size, because it does consume a good portion of the area, frankly, where the restaurant sits now, and into the parking just a little bit to the, it would be, I guess, north in this picture, to the bottom. And some of the pictures on the side, we have a beautiful high-powered transmission line tower in the corner. These are things architects love when they first show up to the site. It's like, look at this. How are we going to make this beautiful? The good news is we do have a lot of really great mature tree and landscaping on both the perimeters of the building. So, one of the things that is really important to us is that when the building is finished, that it does have a certain assemblage of having been there or belonged there for some period of time. There's nothing more sad when you come to a new building with little teeny plants around it, and it doesn't really sort of fit into the landscape well. So we do have all of our perimeters, and all of our perimeters staying intact. Unfortunately, in this picture, it's showing a beautiful stand of trees just above the building. Those are all gone. Apparently, when the new Audi store was built, they chose to move the building all the way to the street front. So a lot of that foliage is actually gone now. So when we show our views, you'll notice that a lot of that is absent because it's been clear cut away now.
Hey, where's the Audi store? Is that next door, or Ming's became the Audi and now it's
Ming's will be Audi is right where that.
That stand of trees is what he's
So
referring
that
Okay.
and actually they cut all the trees all the way down our property line as well.
Oh my
So
goodness.
we're starting. We have quite a few trees being proposed in our project because the need to sort of meet a lot of the standards for landscaping. We lost kind of the benefit of a lot of the shade from these. But that's really not, that's architecture, not so much art. Why don't we flip to the next slide and we can go
Yeah,
through
we
this.
love trees.
So, the option was show it with the tower and or not and pretend that it's never there. It will be there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the thing that is not up to date or accurate in this particular rendering is this corner element and the inclusion of really Baylands oriented design elements, being the wooden posts and the chains. Through several rounds of ARB conversation, there's varying degrees of opinions about the legitimacy, if you will, of really incorporating a lot of Baylands design elements on this corner, considering it's not officially in the Baylands yet. However, it's kind of the first intersection as kind of the arrival to that it's kind of an entrance to it, but it's not officially in it. So where we are at with this particular design is that we've actually gone back and done some very low board form concrete and steel elements, which we've tried to stay with the natural sort of palette color wise, but really kind of move the landscaping element and the retaining walls and so forth more into really a narrative that is more consistent with the building. It's a modern building. It's where Mercedes is on a global platform in terms of where the design is in being more contemporary, modern, and clean. So the amount of landscaping is frankly the same. Just some of these elements are not entirely, they're not articulated this way any longer. Part of that proposal was how to incorporate the public space on both Bayshore and Embarcadero. They're very shallow lot lines to the edge of parking, which is really where we began the project, where Ming's had left it, and actually where the original proposal for this project was going to be a hotel development, and they had sort of maintained that sort of thin edge. So as we were trying to observe places where artwork could be included on the property or on the building, where we had impactful either view corridors or we had places where the public could actually be able to interact, it really drove us to solutions that were at the sidewalk level, or in case of the building, looking at elements of the building where we could possibly incorporate on the facade. So you might want to flip to the next. This is just a view from the other side. Probably the better view in terms of breaking the mass of the building down, but again, this is sort of standing back at the I Institute, looking back towards the intersection with Embarcadero on the left-hand side. The building itself, is, again, it's been broken down mass-wise, incorporating a lot of outdoor space, trying to do things to sort of make it a bit more friendly for these vertical articulations. It's just a reality. They become very bulky, very massive, and it's architecturally it's something to really challenge on how to break these things down and not have them being too sterile. What's identified here in this plan is kind of the three areas that we have kind of zeroed in on as being possible locations. The congestion in the corner with the transmission tower, kind of we sort of ruled that out as being kind of one of our primary opportunities locations, because there's a lot of congestion. There's a lot of transformers on the ground, a lot of the infrastructure that handles the signals and the overhead traffic signals. They're all located really in that corner. So we have 2 points of entry. One is our sidewalk connection off of Embarcadero, and one place where there's a large sort of opening on University. I'm sorry. we're on University over here. I'm sorry. The one on Bayshore is actually where in our existing proposal we have kind of our amenities element with.
Both sides of
You should
Embarcadero.
throw me under the bus here. I'm like the top one. Is where yeah, if I had the pointer, I'm used to. I never sit for a presentation. I'm kind of like clawing at hair. Is where we are including bike servicing stations, water bottle filling station, benches, and part of the public component. And one of the things that we spoke to about Elise is, if we're driving people to really be able to stay there and enjoy that space for a period of time, maybe benches are physically needed, but maybe an art piece which could incorporate these elements in a different way. I mean, we aren't coming with a prescribed vision of what it could be. That would be sort of usurping the whole creative process with an artist, but where we really have this opportunity for the public to engage and not necessarily have to engage the building. I think we want to be very sensitive to making the art accessible without having to feel the need to engage the building or, I don't know what the nature of these car salesmen will be, but I can guess that most of them are typical car salesmen, and they probably will come out and ask if you
walk
want to buy
close,
something.
yeah.
Well, maybe you don't want to do that.
Well, they're Mercedes car salesmen, so they'll ask you tastefully.
Yeah, that's right. We'll offer you coffee before.
Yeah, I was
we
gonna
go.
say, get some free food. or something.
So some of the vehicle points of entry are really at the extreme opposite ends of the property. So the corner, being the most visible and most active, really is not a place where you're going to have a lot of vehicle traffic. So that actually sort of was another reason to sort of drive those locations maybe on these two corners. So I'm going to flip again. So what is hidden behind all this is a 48 to 55 foot tall to the top of the elevator bank tower building. But this is really one of the zones along the street which the Ming's restaurant had created a koi fish pond. There's a few other things here. The plan is to remove all of that and come back and leave the trees, remove a lot of the ground shrubs and so forth. And some of the direction from urban forestry was to incorporate a more of an indigenous landscape palette here. A lot of it had been themed for the restaurant, frankly, and it wasn't stuff that had been tolerant of low water consumption, things like that. So it's sort of dwindled over time. Were you going to add something, Kirsten, before you're
I
ready?
was just going to say, this tree right now is planned here, kind of where the blue circle is, and this is where we're talking about the public amenities, benches, the bike tire, the water filling. And so this would kind of give you an idea of this general area around that tree.
And what's
that
a
kind of
what's a rough
flow.
depth there? We have about, is it 10 to 12 feet?
Well, yes, we have 10 feet along Embarcadero, and then where that tree is, it gets deeper. Probably gets to about 15 to 20 feet at its deepest point before the driveway right here.
Right. So looking at solutions which could be ground oriented. The thing is with the view corridors on the street are really kind of drive your eyes down to the bottom of the tree canopy, because the trees are going to block the majority of the building except for the very top. So how we would potentially incorporate it where it is observed either passing in a vehicle, passing on a bike, or walking is probably the perspective view that most people will have of these two sides of the property. And then if you want to flip to the next one, I think it's the opposite side. Doesn't look like this today. I noticed that all the leaves came off this tree, so maybe actually think you might see the building when we're finished with it. But this side also has some areas where we have chosen to sort of omit parking on the inside of the property line and actually widen it out for both the connection point for the sidewalk up to the building. And initially we had thought that there might be an opportunity, if this were a side that we wanted to consider for some type of installation, we could actually take parking away and actually bring it internal a little bit more. And then the last one is the glorious elevator overrun, which is the piece which has not been, it's a difficult piece at best, but all of these tall buildings with a lot of the elevators and overruns, we have a large mass at the top of the building. And architecturally, trying to fenestrate it properly, there are not a lot of things that can be done just architecturally to try to doctor it up. And so one of the things that we discussed was, if this has the high point, and this does have the best visibility from just about the two major thoroughfares, is that while Mercedes is probably going to be very hesitant to try to would say integrate something into the lower 20 feet of the building, which integrates in their world of signage and brand and so forth. When we get to kind of the horizon line of the building, the top, it really is sort of an open palette. And if we were to want to do something that was large, that had presence, that had lighting, being respectful of the balens and the lighting conditions and so forth, is that we really have a very large sort of space or palette which we could do something, or an artist could choose to do something. And we've looked at we travel, we spend a lot of time looking at public art and a lot of public space and airports and so forth. And I mean, there could be some very, very interesting things can be done with that large of a space, that high up, and frankly, it would give it a bit more of a, I don't want to say a purpose, but I'll say presence. I'll say it would become something specific to look at there, rather than it's just the tallest part of the building, which unfortunately tends to be what happens a lot of times. So this is the byproduct of not having a building that takes 12 acres and a lot of asphalt and really kind of propagating that sprawl philosophy of this type of business. So we feel like it still is probably the best solution for this site, and now we'd like to kind of see where art would actually be enhanced in it as well.
Hey, just one more thing, maybe if you wouldn't mind going back on the shot from the tower. Can you talk a little bit about the origin of the signage, the Baleen signage, and is that still remaining? How and what you're thinking is if that might evolve, because that might be an important piece for the commission.
On the corner?
Yeah.
Well, right now, we have equally balanced comments which contradict each other from our multiple ARB meetings. So it's really a split decision amongst the ARB as to whether or not the appropriateness of the use of this sort of palette of materials. And this was, when in our first ARB meeting, there was a lot of focus on, well, why don't we make this corner something that's really, a new amenity and we said we'd be happy to build it. We put, this Balens and Palo Alto on it. We said, this signage, the city can just decide what you want to do with it. We don't need to put Fletcher Jones. We don't need to put Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes-Benz, the beauty of that, is destination retail, so you don't need lots of signage all over. You don't have to broadcast. I mean, if someone is looking for that product, they will find it. So controlling the whole ground plane and controlling all the messaging is not really as key. So we really had offered this up as a place where if the city would like to propose to do something new, they could. The feedback really was, and I think the stronger feedback, and the one that we've now been pursuing, and where it is currently in our proposal in our next ARB meeting, this will be revised to show what we're submitting as kind of what we would consider our opinion of the best option, is not to do wood posts and chains, and to go back and do board form concrete, Corten steel or painted steel, something which still is low in scale and could integrate into the landscape, but wouldn't try to introduce something which is so vastly different than the building that's behind it. And that's, we had to take a position one way or the other, and we as probably more designers on the modernist and minimal side, we sort of geared towards that. So that's where it stands. I wouldn't even begin to guess how our ARB comments will come back the next time. They could be they could be entirely one way or another again. So it's
Does that mean removing that metal sign that says Balen's Nature
Yeah.
Preserve?
So what is? I'll stand up now real quick.
Yeah.
So what's proposed now is the landscape design itself is relatively flat right now. We're actually proposing that this is sort of a bermed, undulating condition. And so some of this actually will act as retaining wall in that process. So this has actually been brought down and is really more sort of hidden by a lot of this sort of large, sort of grasses here. So you still have the curvilinear form. You still have the curvilinear form that creates the one spot where we have a display for a vehicle. But all of the materiality of that is now not a wood and rusted steel. It's moved back to kind of an acid etched steel, something that's got more of a dark, blacker color.
But that sign itself is gone, right?
Right.
Okay.
I don't think
Confusing.
we couldn't come to any real agreement on it's not the beginning of the Baleen
Yeah,
National
right.
Park.
It's
So
very,
it's
ironic.
kind of right, and we only put it there as an effort to sort of
Yeah.
start the conversation,
Right.
and we were waiting for
Okay.
somebody to gravitate to it.
Yeah.
And
I
They gravitate to it.
away from that.
You did,
Right.
I thought it was like
And you're very
entrance to the
diplomatic, I
dance.
must say.
Yeah.
It's a compliment to you guys.
Well, you know, when you start a project like this, and we were really listening to all the voices, and you're just trying to sort of filter through and try to find the pattern. And what we didn't realize was that would change from the same comments from one person from one meeting to the next would be diametrically different. So we're like, you know, at that meeting, I probably had that look on my face quite a bit. I was like, okay, that's not what I remember. I was like,
Yeah.
did I not take good notes? I think that we said we wanted to do that. Forestry still was in love with it. Urban forestry loved the whole idea, but I think that was probably the biggest champion of that aesthetic, if you will. Most of the architects on the ARB did not.
Have you had a chance to look at the foot traffic of the space? I know, like, obviously, the car traffic, but
Right.
like in terms of
Well, that was where we chose to go away from more benches and more towards the bike amenities, because we really, in the time that we were on site observing, and this is a really, really busy intersection now, and I think this has been even elevated because of some ongoing traffic on the freeway. I think a lot of people are using this as a way to divert it. So for the first few months that we were observing, there was a lot of heavy truck traffic. I think that stopped because the fill, like, I think they capped off, so that big truck traffic is gone. Next after that's been bikes. I mean, we really see more people using bikes, a lot more people using the bikes going down, which side am I on?
We've seen
Embarcadero.
several on Embarcadero, but then
Yeah.
also Bayshore. I've
Yeah.
noticed a few.
Yeah. So
Not as much as Embarcadero going out towards the Baylands, but
and before moving to Dallas and having to entirely rely on a car, I lived in Chicago and I was a big biker, so I already gravitated towards, it's like, you know, biking and having the amenities there, if we could find a way to do that. I thought, community-wise, as we were around town, we're like, you know, there's a lot of biking, and this would probably be a better amenity than just saying we're going to put a bunch of park benches out there. Because across the street on the I Institute, there's all these lonely benches, and they don't look like anyone's ever really sat on them. So it's in the Baylands design guidelines, the benches are one of the elements which they would like to have. So I think the default has been people have just put them there, but they're not really being used because that may not really be how people are using that space.
But you know, benches don't have to look like benches.
Very
and
true.
Bike racks don't have to look like bike racks.
Right.
They can become, I've seen some really great public art that
Mhm.
are things like that. So,
And I think that'd be a great
public area that
opportunity.
you're talking about, would, I think, and people might gravitate to that,
Mhm.
because this is probably will draw more foot traffic once the building goes up, and
Mhm.
you know, as people come to look at cars and
Mhm.
escape from the salesman to take a break, that when they want to go outside and sit down or something.
Sure,
So,
sure.
You know, something
Yeah.
like that. So.
Well, because our proposal for art had not evolved as quickly as the demand for content, if you will, for the ARB meetings, when they said, well, what would you do for benches? And they gave us the standard bench that they use. And we already said, I think that we could probably work with a furniture designer to come up with something more contemporary, but using those materials to do something which functions as a bench, but may not be a bench with a back. And then really as we continue to juggle into things that we need to deal with, as art, we're like, well, maybe, and this was a conversation we had with Elisa's, maybe we don't really need a bench per se, maybe we need some type of art piece which you can also use as a place to perch or sit or something like that. And we talked about, we both kind of fondly like some of the work at North Park Mall in Dallas by Beverly Pepper, which is these really beautiful undulating steel plates that sort of play in and out of the landscape. And they're very simple, and you know, it's funny, they've been in place for probably since the 60s, and kids still play on them the same way they always have. People still continue to interact with them, even though 2 or 3 generations have passed. So I think we haven't really found that way to get that part of this integrated yet, and so that's why we came. And you know, this will be an expensive building. There will be a very good budget to do some meaningful work, and I think we've discussed with Lisa about having the city be part of the management and procurement and overseeing it. I mean, we as designers love design. I don't want to try to micromanage how an artist would want to work in this space, so we kind of feel like turning that over to y'all's team and kind of seeing where it could take us would be a really interesting opportunity.
There's a possibility to have more than one. You identified 3 different sites. Could you use 2 of the 3 or even all 3 of the
Yeah,
sites
absolutely.
for the art?
I think we have the budget to do whatever we feel like is appropriate, and I don't think any one area is better than the other. They each have characteristically different, maybe merit, and maybe different ways that they're installed based on how people use that site.
Well, there's
So,
one
we're
requirement
open.
of 8 hours of public access, and I think all 3 of those, especially the outside ones, would really fit that bill. Even after hours, people would probably come and use the spaces as well.
A couple questions. I'm assuming the tower, it's completely off limits. There's nothing you can do from an art standpoint to embellish the tower.
On the black tower, the black element.
The power.
You know,
utility.
I would love to. Actually, the first time I arrived at this site, I looked at it and said, who
Can you paint
manages
it?
power, P&G or who manages it? They are a very difficult group of people just to paint it.
Is it owned by,
City
is it
of
PG&E?
Palo?
Because we own our own utilities here. so
This is not the,
Is
it
you
PG&E?
tie into this one. This one is
It's not ours.
Is not
It's
yours
PG&E.
directly. I believe the tie-in for the city is just a little further,
Across
maybe
the
south.
freeway. It's across the
Across
freeway.
freeway?
This is the main drop from PG&E, so this is where we get our power.
So
It
this
comes
is
in,
the
and it comes in at
distribution,
the
transmission line.
the substation on the other
Yeah.
side of 101.
I mean, the first thing I saw on the site was I had this, that epiphany of like, wow, you could do with this? What if it were black? What if you had lighting in it? What if you had your electric cars around it? I mean, how could you use it as kind of this statement? But, as we continue to engage more large organizations like that, it's like the power companies and the Department of Transportation is where all good ideas and ingenuity go to die. It feels like it's like you just can't stay on it long enough before you finally okay, I get it. You just don't want this. I'll go away. But we will improve on it. I don't improve on it in the sense that we'll try to aesthetically improve on it and getting it cleaned, getting it painted, making it a bit more presentable. But I'm not sure how they would respond, and we haven't asked specifically to do anything, so I wouldn't say it's off the table. But I mean, I wouldn't see why.
And are there any particular, first of all, thank you for coming, by the way. This is really fascinating. Are there any particular standards that Mercedes has in terms of color or theme? I mean, I hope not, but
No,
it's a
I mean,
question.
as you
just because
see
they
it-
have their identity.
No, as you see it in these illustrations, I mean, they have in the last 2 years they've migrated. If you've seen some stores in the area which are primarily a blue paint sort of accent, that is the old prototype, if you will. They don't have a prototype building. They have a set of design standards and guidelines, color palette, etc. So what they now have, which are kind of their core elements, are the black columns, the use of black where the white star is, and the general color palette of the building is typically whites, silvers, blacks, and grays. I mean, it's absent of any real personality, but as you see, Audi right next door, 100% silver building, almost. I mean, it has a bit of fenestration, which is unique. But what you're finding in between Mercedes, Audi, BMW, they are all sort of, I guess, black, gray, silver is the new fashion. And when these things happen, they typically stick around for at least 10 years. And so this is right at the beginning. So we know this is at least here to stay for a while. And they're a very conservative company. They generally would probably not add a lot of color. The only thing that is really sacred to them is the space around the star. And they have some guidelines on the star is the highest element on the building in terms of logo. The name of the Mercedes-Benz is below that. The name of the dealer is below or equal to that. So they start to get into a hierarchy of brand, if you will. But they're not very imposing in terms of you must have this number of stars or this number of names and they have to be on these faces. We as the architects get to try to pick where we think they can be incorporated into the building and not look like they were just bolted on as an afterthought. And this is kind of how we've approached this one.
Because
So,
there's that
having-
Mercedes building going up the peninsula right off
Yeah.
101 there.
Right at the
Yeah,
kind
it's
of
a
overpass.
pretty big building.
That one is going to be entirely, I believe most of it will be torn down and rebuilt to a new set of standards like this. But that was where they were in the last 10-year period, and Frank is a bit underwhelming in terms of the way it presents itself to the highway. It's really kind of the back of the building,
Yeah.
but that's they're unique in the sense that Mercedes you'll find lots of different kinds of buildings appearance-wise. Audi you will only find one. The Audi store that's being built right now next door is exactly like the Audi store that we'll be building next year in Fremont, exactly like the one we just finished in Chicago. They just change in their height and their length, but it's exactly the same material, exactly the same
In
everywhere.
North Scottsdale, there's like a luxury car row, where they've got Mercedes and Jaguar and all these different Maserati, and they're side by side, and the buildings almost look all the same. Now, is that a conscious effort to?
The one in Scottsdale, I believe, is Schumacher, is the owner of that, and it has a lot of overhangs, which at least they tried to address the sun.
Yeah.
Smart in that particular environment. I don't know. Not every brand is now. What you've seen in the automotive retail world is that the manufacturers are now really pushing a series of brand guidelines where they used to give the individual owners of the businesses a bit more flexibility to make it specific to your environment. And that's just because I think they finally woke up to understand that the building is also part of the brand, the buying experience is part of the brand, the interior is part of the brand, so they've exerted more control over the years. So, and you put 10 of them together and they all kind of want the same thing right now. They want clean, modern, sophisticated, whether it's Jaguar, Land Rover, Mercedes, Ferrari, they all are kind of looking for that sort of bespoke, minimal environment where the car is the object of your affection. So that's probably a trend, and there's only so many colors of metal that they can run through before they repeat.
So it seems that you don't have a ton of space, and I really like the idea of doing something exciting with that big palette. It looks like it was 12 feet by 28 feet, so it's really big.
It's actually larger than that, isn't it?
Well, I pulled it kind of looking at the scale of it and not pulling the art all the way to the edge. I mean, we could use it all the way to the edge, but just from a vantage standpoint
That's
with the parapet.
that's the square footage you'd see.
Yeah.
12 by 28, is that right?
Yeah, I think from a vantage point from the ground and everything, that would probably be the size it would be. It can fluctuate a little bit. But.
So I don't know. So a couple different thoughts about what you might do there. I think this is probably way out of the scope of the budget, which is going to be like $250,000 roughly after the. So there is a piece that's at Millennium Park that in Chicago where they have an artist has done it's a projection and it's two facing fountains.
Yep.
And you've probably seen it. And I don't know, so I was thinking, so that one is, I'm sure that's millions of dollars, but I'm wondering if there's anything that can be done with projection. And it would mean it's only part of the day, like it's in the evening, but it could be something fun that you could do that's much less expensive that projects on a big canvas. That would be the kind of thing that really catches your eye. You're going by, there is a lot of car traffic. I wouldn't think of this, I don't know if there's any foot traffic. Like there's nothing, the stuff that's on the other side on Embarcadero is people's work. And you're driving to work or you're riding your bike, and I don't know when you're contemplating the bike stuff if you're thinking of people riding their bikes to go to the Mercedes dealer.
No, that's
going out to the Baylands.
That's purely for the recreational purposes. Now
I think because the bridge that you'll go over, so sorry to interrupt, but the bridge that you'll go over to go to the Baylands is not this bridge. There's another bridge that's further south. It's a bike bridge. So I don't think, because it's not that nice. Like you don't really want to ride your bike across it, but it's
pretty tight.
Yeah, and so assuming that it's going to be something that's your people are driving. It could be kind of fun to have a living kind of visual element that is picking up, projecting, taking.
Well, I was going to say, this technology, and we have a building going up in Chicago right now that's over off of Elston, south of Division, and the technology piece is probably about $250,000 for the LED boards, but then it's open program, so then it's whatever content would potentially want
content's
to be
free, right? When you have to pay.
Well, the interesting thing, and we found this in Ontario, is that when the city asked if they could, we found a partnership with a sign company who really funded about 2/3 of the cost, and all the city asked for was 15 minutes a month or something like that. I don't think they even use all that time, but it's they need access. This is a freeway-facing building sign. And they use it on occasion for either emergency information or whatnot. But out of that, they found a way to fund a large part of it. Now, the rest of the time it runs oil changes and car leasing, and that would never be part of this.
I think from a
There
zoning
are-
standpoint, you'd have a hard time with
Right.
that,
I
too.
mean, the brightness might be a problem, but
But there's nothing residential on the other side. Like on the other side of it's anyway. It's just an idea.
But there are some guidelines and concerns about light pollution, especially as you get close to the mainland. So we would have to look into those things.
Did we ever find who the artist was who did the Denver International Airport tunnel piece? The low
Oh, the
propellers.
kinetic one? I don't
I don't know the
It's easy to
artist's
find.
name.
I mean, there's some really
Yeah.
interesting things out there. That this one in
Yeah.
Denver International Airport is really that tunnel, and so the motion of the train actually makes there's thousands of these little polished aluminum propellers that are arranged on the wall, and so as it goes by, you're seeing this thing happening, and you don't really know what it is until you pass by, and then you see the propellers kind of slow down. But with this height, I don't know. There could be something that could incorporate the way the sun works on it, the way that the wind works on it, and
Would you be able to do something that protrudes from? So let's say that you didn't do anything that's lit, and it's not a panel. There's no projection. If there's issues with light pollution, could you do anything? I don't know what the guidelines are, like what Mercedes would limit you from doing. Could you do something that protrudes from that panel so that you
Sure.
added a sense of depth,
Yeah.
a sculpture that is, I don't know how far out you could go.
We have, not everyone has this, but this particular owner, Fletcher Jones, has got a bit of leverage where they could say, you have your $28 million buildings, we're putting this on the top. Okay, shake. So we're not asking Mercedes to approve anything that happens above that parapet line. As far as we're concerned, that's not their, we've covered everything that their corporate mandates would require from this point down. So from that point up, we really will take the position that if the city, and it's very easy to turn them back on the heels and say, the city really wants to do this.
Yeah.
And they go,
Are the
okay.
windows off limits? Because there's there's so many windows, and I find there could be something very fascinating with even the main, even like the end. That's
Right.
where the service.
Well,
window,
when you most of your traffic will come off of the Bayshore
Okay,
side
okay.
because the access to the site off of Embarcadero is kind of a hard right, and you'd have to actually circle all the way around the thing. So almost all the traffic, this will be your view when you come onto the property. We had talked about or considered something which was internal to the building, but we were afraid that didn't really meet the spirit of the public art. I mean, at that point it becomes corporate art and it's inside, and it's really not, it's not, the public may look at it, but it's like it's mine.
Yeah.
So we weren't really sure that was, because our other stair tower on the opposite side is another opportunity that faces directly at the street, and it's internal, but again, it sort of bridges that gap of, is this really public or is this really of the building, if you will.
And then the other thing too that we've seen before a little bit too is with like a street address. Not that we talked about, again, this is a destination, but like I just feel like there needs to also be some bold color. I just feel like a pop of bright color. And so like was that like, even at the beginning in the front at that corner, even like I don't know the number of the property, like 689, and bright red and yellow and blue color or something, like these gigantic that people can climb on or something like that. That's obviously could be a safety hazard as well, but something, I just feel like there should be something, a pop of color.
Well, this being our
Interact.
initial meeting, I mean, we don't really come with a
Yeah.
prescribed idea of what it could be. I mean, we actually did early on, we have a very good working relationship with a designer in New York, but he's a lighting designer, so he's not really, this is not within his kind of scope. But amazing lighting designer, did the new Shigeru Bond building in Aspen, does all of the lighting work for Louis Vuitton across the world. And he said, they do a lot of designers now with parametric design and sculpting and 3D printing. I mean, it's really blurring the lines as to who can do what and how well it looks. But we talked to him early on, and we had said, well, is it an object piece that's positioned, and our environment makes that challenging because we don't have a lot of big open space to get far away enough to see it. And in terms of the lighting concept, if we even found an artist who said, we want to do something on the building, we would be happy to introduce him to the person that we use in New York, because the lighting designer is amazing. Say, could you guys come up with a way that you could enhance this with lighting, so that it's more of a partnership? But this needs to be done, and I think the client really wants to do the art on this property and make it a statement piece. And that's where we stop, and where we sort of ask for you guys to help guide the decision making, the location, and ultimately helping with artist selection and looking at something that you guys are going to be happy with as well. Because it is an important corridor, and it will continue to be.
I think it could be fun to do something in the spirit of like Greg Brown, where you did something playful, where you had kind of you had that somebody you're standing there, kind of eyes peeking up over a ledge. Or,
You're from Chicago, aren't you? Yeah. I forget who did when we did the Block 37 project. They took down everything in that park except for the I forget who the artist was. There was the Energy Bug. It was on the back side of a big transform building. It was this. I noticed some here on this building up above. There's those little block characters. They're kind of like almost like video game characters. And he did. There's this thing existed out there in that block for decades, when all they had was ice skating and the occasional beer festival there. But they just didn't want to take it down because it was this 70s art movement. And, but I don't think the client would look at this as being, this is too playful for us. I think that's where we need to. It becomes a way, and I think, not to speak for them, but my conversations, I've guided them towards, this is your opportunity to establish yourself in the community. You're going to have a great customer fund. They do a fantastic job. They sell a great product. They do great customer service. Lots of people can do that. But if you could also endear yourself as being part of a broader community by engaging art and doing something where your building becomes a statement piece that people are like, oh yeah, that's the thing that's on that Mercedes building. Even if it's the byproduct, that's a great way of entering into the community, I think, as a business. So I don't think we're opposed to anything.
Too, that you just mentioned, that you drew, I can't see it, but just the idea, there's a piece, and I want to say it's in Seattle, but at I think it's a library, I could be totally off on this, but it's a giant bear looking in the window, and that's how, like, I thought,
That's Denver.
Is that Denver, okay. In that same area, but it just reminded me, you just said, Jim, just something like
Playful,
but like that you wouldn't expect, and just something.
The new Perot Museum in Dallas, I don't know.
A
the
Mercedes
artist
car looking
was.
like it's falling off the building. I don't know. So.
They did these large iridescent glowing frogs out in front of the Perot, Morphosis of the building, and the Perot family donated it to the city of Dallas. But there's these giant, these frogs are this tall. There's about 8 of them, and they come out of the ground. So the first one, it's just the head, and then at the end, and at night they glow this green. And when you watch people with them, you can't help but take photos with it. Not just children. So I don't think anything's out of bounds. I think we just we know we want to get on with this conversation, so we want to start with you, and then see where we went.
Anybody else want to weigh in, Mila?
I just wanted to chime in because I would agree with what Jim said about the location. Location 3 being my favorite for the site. I've myself tried to access that area by foot. It is impossible. And so I think that the notion of benches and some type of transit type art is a nice idea, but just kind of frustrating because very hard to use and hard to get down there. There aren't even crosswalks over those. I
tried to take some photos today, and you literally have to.
Yeah, it's.
I jaywalked, almost got hit, but I did get across.
Right.
But you're right.
So you see these beautiful benches,
around.
and you can't get to them. It's kind of, I think, unfortunate. I wish the access was improved a bit better, but I think that facade and the ability that you have with the budget and the global brand, and that it could be something not like anything we've seen, is kind of the most exciting part. And thank you for coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
My only idea is I like that top part too. I guess I've only turned around at that intersection. I've never driven past it, so I don't know how close it is to Baylands, but going back to that theme of the Baylands or nature or something up on that area could be another one that I just throw
It's
out.
like another mile.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a little confusing to see that sign there. I
Okay.
thought,
Yeah, that's
wait,
what I felt like.
thought
Is it
this was
just
at
right past
Main,
it?
Right.
Okay.
Right, so I'm
Okay.
Well-
So then maybe not if it's not super close, but
The
or
adjacent
something.
But still,
buildings-
nature is where people are headed.
Yeah,
You know, the golf
if
course and
they're-
Baylands.
Okay.
That's the
That's
corridor
what's
to
over there.
that.
So
Some of the adjacent buildings, the Eye Institute has several signs. They're not their brand signs, they're a different type of sign, but they follow that format. Opposite side of the street, I think there's a water pump type facility. That office building is a big, post with chains and bars. I mean, people have kind of started to adopt it as it's gone down there, but I don't know if that's been at the behest of, as if the ARB at some period of time was really trying to push that a little bit further. Because when you actually get into the Baylands and you look at how it's really being used, it's really to keep people from parking off the road. That's where those chains of bollards are. So we've transformed them into a decorative vernacular, but the real purpose out there was to protect the environment from people driving around and so forth. But
Can we go back to the one slide that had the trees on East Bay Shore?
Go
forward. Yeah.
Go forward, yes. Into next
Yeah,
one.
Yeah. Are those mimosa trees? Do you know?
No, they're Chinese elm.
Okay. Yeah.
wow, you knew that. I was gonna
Good.
could not tell you.
I maybe I'm like the only person in town, but I've walked along here.
Yeah?
Yeah, I have.
It's actually really nice further down Bayshore.
the Audi dealer?
Well, and also the Moonlight Run is not far from here,
Yes.
and so a lot of people for that. I mean, it's a once a year event, but people park in all of these parking lots, and then you have this kind of neat thing where you walk at night along this way. But I often will go walking in the Baylands and with friends, and if we're having like a really intense conversation, we'll wander out of the Baylands and make the loop around that corner. This street is sort of more interesting than the other one on Embarcadero. So, because I was thinking like, oh, if those were mimosas in like August have this like intense pink showing, and then they drop it, and then they have these seed pellets, and there's like a whole seasonal thing with those trees. So you might have the occasional stray from Baylands. You might also have, there are on the other side of the street, on the other side of Embarcadero, there are quite a lot of employees that are there during the day in offices. And so, I mean, if I worked in those offices, I'd be going into the Baylands, but you might also have some stray pedestrians from that lot, from those properties. So I agree with my colleagues that the third choice is definitely the one to spend most of the energy with, but if you were to rank them, I would encourage you to still look at this particular pedestrian experience over the other pedestrian experience. And not that you need benches even, because anytime I've been in that neighborhood, I've not wanted to sit. I'm engrossed in a conversation, and I'm walking with a friend, power walking. But it is a length, and it is nice to mark it in some way. So that's my only added suggestion.
All right. Thank you very much.
I appreciate the conversation on it, and we look forward to the next steps.
I sent you the link to an article that then probably like the public art.
Okay.
And it's got the name of the two artists who collaborated to do that.
Perfect.
So, thanks so much. Have a safe trip home.
Yes, thank you.
Staying around for a while.
Thanks again.
Good luck. Bye-bye.
Okay. So, our next order of business is an action item, the acquisition of artwork.
So,
Has everyone had a chance to see the awesome stuff from Cover the Artist?
Yes, thank you.
So briefly, on that item, so just for clarification, right, we're going back to our agenda, back to item number 1. The acquisition of artwork, there are a number of Coverly artists who are offering work. If you may recall, the Cubberley artists are required to donate an artwork after their or during their first term at Cubberley. Several of these artists have been here for some time and are terming out and are offering these gifts to us just out of the gratitude for the time that they've had at Cubberley. So we're really thrilled with the selection of work. And I do recommend that we're going to go through, and I've actually asked Nadia to walk you through all the various donations and a little bit of the history of these artists. But then it may be easier to go artist by artist to make a decision, so it'll be cleaner instead of trying to do one motion. So with that, I will turn it over to Nadia, who needs a microphone.
Thank you, Liz. Okay, so excited to introduce the offered works to the commission tonight. As Elise mentioned, we do have a fabulous selection we're very thrilled with. And we'll start in the same order as the artists are represented in your staff reports, so it's easier for you to follow. So we'll start with Linda Gass. So Linda has been with the Cubberley program for a while. She joined originally in 2007. Her term will expire next year in 2017. This would be the second donation by Linda Gass. She already gifted a work in 2011. So Linda is a visual artist and environmentalist. She's very connected with the Palo Alto community, plays a big role here both as an artist, as a community member, environmentalist. In her artworks, Linda is inspired by the connection between humans and the water and land that sustain them. So Linda mostly works, her major bodies of work include staged silk paintings, just like the artwork that we already have in our collection. And also Linda works in land art installations. So in her staged paintings, she blends painting with textile techniques to create multi-layered bird-eye view landscapes and maps showing the human marks as they affect our water resources. This particular artwork is titled Treatment, and it's actually a unique photographic image printed on coated aluminum board. So this work is about 30 by 30 inches. It comes unframed, and it's ready to be donated. The artwork was created in 2009.
I want to add one thing. One thing I just wanted to add, did our connection go? Is that featured in that image is, of course, the water quality control plant here in Palo Alto, and the staff at the water quality control plant is really, really enthusiastic and excited about having another Linda Gass work. And the advantage to the photograph is that it's not as light sensitive as the textile work, so we will likely be able to put it in one of the visitor facilities there at the water quality control plant. But the staff is really excited.
And it's on aluminum, so you can just hang it. It doesn't need to be framed.
Exactly.
And where is the original that this is a photograph of?
Right. The original piece was purchased by a private foundation. I don't have the information on that.
And I believe she was in the paper this weekend, the Mercury this weekend, is that correct? She was.
About what? What is it?
It was about this artwork, and she was in, I think she's
Right.
installing
Linda
a new
just
exhibit.
finished her residency at the Art Center.
That's right.
Mhm.
Okay.
She's
so
one of the ecology, creative
That's
ecology
what it was.
artists.
Yeah. Interesting.
Alrighty, so we're moving on to our next artist, Ken Edwards. So Ken Edwards is a retired fireman. So after he retired, he decided to pursue his artistic career. He mostly works with sculpture and painting, and his sculptures are these really interesting creative tools. So in his sculpture, he repurposes tools, gardening tools, power tools, and uses mostly poplar to create these beautiful artistic handles that he paints. So the two works that Ken offered to the commission. This work is titled Lawn Edger No. 2. This work was created in 2007. And the other artwork is a new artwork. It was created last year in 2015. It also uses a found object, and Ken created this beautiful handle that he painted. So that's, this would be Ken's second donation as well. He previously donated his painting, which actually can be seen in the lobby that connects the council meeting room and this space. So the previous donation was gifted to the city in 2008. Ken will be leaving the program later this year. His term expires in the end of 2016.
And to be clear, you would have a choice of one of these or the other. So the commissioners need to decide which one you would prefer to have for the collection.
Okay.
So
That's the hard part.
The artist where there's more than one image, it means that there were a couple of great options, and we brought them back to the commission to make the final recommendation or decision.
Are there any city departments that have sort of put their hand up expressing interest in either piece?
Generally, we
Just
don't
to
reach
be-
out on potential donations. It's just because Linda
know,
Gass
yeah.
has that close relationship with the folks at the water quality control plant. That's why they were aware of the pending donation.
Okay.
What kind of a tool is that?
So I believe it's a gardening tool.
It's an edger.
Lawn
An
edger.
How big is it? I mean, I see the
It's
light switch thing. Oh,
It's the
Yeah,
dimensions are on there.
It's
Okay.
9
Like this.
by 3 inches, so it's 9
Seven.
inches long.
it looks, compared to the light switch, it's confusing. Yeah, it's bigger than, it looks so small compared to that outlet, you know. Okay.
And the other one is slightly bigger. This is a larger tool. It's 26 inches and it's longest.
Oh, okay.
And one other quick question: do all these pieces, will they all have homes, or because we have quite a bit of stuff in storage? So would all these pieces be guaranteed to be seen right away, or could they all? There's no really.
I think we'll easily find takers for these. That usually new acquisitions get hung. The pieces that are in storage are generally pieces that are a little more difficult to place because of their content.
Yes.
Did you say we already have something from him? Or
Right. So Ken previously donated a painting,
painting.
Fractus at the Flan Factory, and it
Oh,
can be
that's here.
viewed just in the hallway
Brain.
down there.
You just said that.
And to
can
address
show
the storage question, we've been actually working to unload the art storage quite. So we'll be installing around the libraries and other city departments too. So we've been rotating the collection a lot.
Good.
And was he, a Palo Alto City firefighter too?
I don't recall where.
I think so.
Just that, that looks like maybe a firefighting related tool, and if they knew him, I don't know. I was just wondering if he
I
had a
don't know.
connection.
All of his tools are very different.
Okay.
Yeah. But I assume so, but I can
Yeah.
follow up.
I was wondering for them. Can you place it there?
This looks like fire.
Yeah.
Shall we
Yeah.
continue? Okay, so Barbara Gunther. Barbara is a very established artist, printmaker, and an educator. She's been with CASP for quite a while. She joined the program in 2003. Later this year, her term will expire. So this is her final year with CASP. So Barbara taught printmaking and drawing, lithography, studio arts across various colleges and universities in California. She is represented in several permanent collections of public art in municipalities and museums. She has many private collections. This would be a second donation offered by Barbara into the city collection. And in her work, just a couple of words, she is very interested in light and how light works with place and goes through barriers. So she's been exploring that subject throughout her career, both in painting and printmaking. So this artwork, it's called Fall. It was created in 2005. It's oil on canvas. In terms of dimensions, it's a larger piece. It's 36 by 46 inches.
It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, we have two more. Nancy White offered two works for your consideration, so we'll have to choose one of them. So Nancy produces very small scale, intimately scaled, optically rather charged geometric abstractions. She was with the program for 13 years, and last year in December 2015 she actually left CASP and she moved to San Francisco. Nancy is very accomplished and much exhibited artist nationwide. So we're thrilled to have her works in our collection. This would also be the second donation offered by Nancy. We already have her work that she gifted in 2011. So these two works, they're smaller in scale. This work is 8 by 10 inches. It's acrylic on paper attached to a panel, and it was created in 2009. And the second works comes from the same series. It's the same size, 8 by 10 acrylic on paper.
And because the piece we have in the collection is also from the same series, I was going to say, can we maybe pull it up so that they can see, how this piece might fit, which of these pieces might fit with the existing piece in the collection? It might be helpful. The other ones, the pieces we have are a little bit different, but this one, because it's from that same series, it might be more helpful for you to see that.
And that doesn't mean that it would be placed together. It could be.
No, it doesn't.
Here we go.
So this is the piece we have in the collection now.
8 by 10?
They're all about 8 by 10. They're all that same intimate scale.
In small scale.
That's really pretty.
And the subtleties of the shadowing it's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
so
that's
there
nice.
is this tendency that you really want to get up close to it, and then back away from it. You end up going back and forth quite a bit.
Shall I go back to the pieces that she's
Yeah.
offering? Okay.
And so again, this one is a choice between one of those two.
Wait, could you bring up the one that we already own?
That we already have.
Mhm.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Here we go. That's the.
Okay.
So Lisa,
Hard
I'm gonna make,
choices.
excuse me, I'm just gonna make this hard. Is there any way that we can go back to the artist and they can we can ask for both, or it has to be just? Is that the
It really
guideline?
is just
That's fine,
one
fine.
or the other.
So it would be interesting as a triptych. That's why I'm just thinking.
We would love it as a trip.
It would be very fascinating. but- Okay.
Okay. And so the last artist on the list. so to say, is Saba Shear, the 5th artist that we're presenting today. Saba is one of the new Coverly artists. She joined the program in 2014. Saba is offering 2 artworks for your consideration. So Saba works in abstract. She gets her inspiration from her travels around the world, and so really her art becomes this meditative sensory experience of her memories of places where she visits. She creates her expressive paintings in mixed media on canvas, diving into each surface with pure joy and the exuberance for the rich hues. She really is an expressive, like, light, full of energy, a person like full of positive energy. So I think her works really translate that positive energy. And so the works that Saba is offering today, this piece is titled Love is Blue. The piece was created in 2014. It's a mixed media on canvas, 42 by 42 inches. The other artwork, so these photographs were taken in her studio, by the way, in Coverly. This artwork is titled Sea Light. It comes from the same series. The work was created in 2014. It's a slightly smaller piece. It's 36 by 36 inches. Okay, now we come to the hard part.
Okay.
Seriously.
Can we go through the report and go one at a time?
Yeah.
Really nice stuff.
So first, we'll start with Linda Gass. Do we have a motion to add this piece to the collection?
I move.
Second, all in favor?
Wait, who is second? Ben moved? Wait,
I'll second. Oh.
wait, you second?
Amanda
I
moved,
think-
Ben seconded,
Oh.
Oh.
I think.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Enthusiastically.
I just see that piece.
Ken Edwards.
So for the Ken Edwards pieces, let's sort of, let's do this. Can we do this by a show of hands for the how many in favor of one or the other? Do we have to making a choice?
You could do a straw poll to sort of test the room, or someone could go ahead and make a motion and then see if it has legs.
All right.
So it's really how you want to handle it.
Mila, make a motion.
I'd
please.
like to make a motion to accept the lawn picture. I love the fact that he's repurposing tools, and we're all as a community are repurposing our lawns. And if that is indeed what that is, I think it's whimsical and a neat piece. They're both gorgeous. They're both stunning. But I'm kind of drawn to this one, so that's my proposal.
Because it's a little unconventional. Are there any other motions to consider before we?
So I like the pick. They're both beautiful,
They're
but
both cool.
yeah.
They're both very cool.
I did like the pick. I just love the colors in the bottom and just
Yeah.
how different it looks than a normal hammer or pick. You know, it looks like a hammer to me, but a pick, I guess, is a very similar thing. And I don't know what. Well, I guess picks are used to break concrete. I didn't know if it's something firemen used to that could go into a firehouse. So that's why I was wondering about that link with him and but it's
So
just
is that
very,
a motion that you're
yeah.
making?
I mean, I do. I don't know how we're gonna do this, but
I second that.
I mean, I say we do a vote, right? Like there
Sure.
seems an easy.
Okay.
It's not unanimous.
It's really hard to choose.
Yeah,
So
they're-
let's do a vote then.
Can't get both, like-
Do you want to do a straw?
I
Are
do
you
like
doing
that.
like a straw poll, or how are you gonna?
I do like.
It's a straw poll.
It's not personal. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we
Or
should
was
do
there
a straw
second
poll
for
because
this motion?
we wouldn't want to vote against one of the works,
so-
right?
That's fine.
So we're
By
gonna
show
write
of
down.
hands, or
Do you want to write them down? Let's write them down. We'll have a secret ballot.
right, green or blue?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
green or
blue. That keeps it simple.
Green or blue?
Perfect.
yeah. So write down green or blue, and submit your votes to Elise, please.
Yes.
Okay, double blind.
Oh, we can't lose.
I'm so lucky, and these are really.
They're really neat.
Yeah.
I want to go see what his painting looks
I
like.
know, and actually I'm
because
happy that Amanda
it's
asked again because I missed that it was a painting, so I think I would have gone looking for this thing.
Yeah.
And then been really confused.
Totally.
Did you give me mine?
I did.
Okay.
Really cool. And you know, so when they open the studios again, you should go check it out. Because he's got a wall full of pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like that one. That's what I was thinking.
I don't know.
I
Drill,
know.
like the drill.
I know, but it's,
It's
yeah, I
cool.
know, I
So
know.
where we're
At the red.
well, you got a battle on your hands. Okay. Well, it's a good thing everyone turned up this evening. Okay. So, I mean, it's
An
really, you
omnibus.
could go either way. You've got 4 for blue and you've got 3 for green.
Well, we.
All right, I
Or
think
win.
That's it.
that's our selection. So,
Yep.
all in favor of our selection?
Wait, you got, somebody
We
still
have to
gotta
go.
make
We
a
still have to make a
motion.
motion. Okay, we still, even
I
though we voted.
motion for the pick.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we went with this one.
Pick it is. So now moving on to Barbara Gunther.
Make a motion that we accept Barbara Gunther's donation.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, we're gonna have
Oh,
another
now it's gonna get tough.
secret ballots here again. So let's do this. Let's do this in 2 swaths. So
Okay.
please submit your votes.
Does anybody, any
Is there
commentary?
arguments?
Yeah,
Yeah.
comment would be great.
I was just gonna,
So there's discussion.
well, I would like to just say, personally, like aesthetically, the top one is my favorite, but I like that the second one doesn't duplicate what we already have in the collection the way that I think the first one does. So I don't know.
They're beautiful, and
You
this
think
does
one's
no
duplicative?
justice.
I feel like the first one's
Yeah,
more
I do
duplicative
too.
of
I
the
think
work
it's
than
somewhat
already. Yeah.
duplication of it, but it's different, but it looks the same.
Right.
I think it's
But I'm
complimentary.
drawn to it as well. But I like the other one because I like the color variation.
Yeah,
Better.
color.
Me too.
Better.
That's
Well,
that's
and
right.
I'm wondering in person if the lower one, this one,
Yeah.
that depth is actually more apparent in person than
On
because
this.
it's not doing the shading so much here, but
Right. It
I
looks
think
very
that there might be
2D.
potential with it. And you've seen it in person.
Yeah. Do you
Yes,
have-
so, I mean, what I can share with you is, yes, there is always more shading in the actual piece than comes through, but this piece does, you can see the drawn lines that have less shading, so there is less of that subtlety in this one. It's more about the geometry and less of the shading than there is in the top one.
Can we see the gift that we already own again?
Sure.
Do you guys have a preference, having seen them and know it more?
This is why we bring 2 to you.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, this piece
Steph
is really beautiful.
You wouldn't bring something that
Okay.
we wouldn't support.
Okay. You're fine. So are we gonna call them top and bottom, or how do you want to vote?
1 and 2.
1 and
Yellow.
2.
Okay, 1
Orange.
and 2.
Yellow, orange.
Yeah, that's a yellow orange.
Oh,
Oh,
wait. Which is yellow?
What
Well,
about
let's-
1
let-
and 2?
I think 1
The
and
bottom
2.
one's yellow.
Oh, okay.
The top one's orange.
Is the top one orange?
All right, so
Yeah.
the top one is number
Yellow.
1, the bottom one's number 2.
Thank you.
Right. It's sort of burnt sienna, isn't it?
Oh my God.
Umber.
Here, ours.
What are we doing, top or bottom?
I did
1,
1 and
2.
2.
Oh,
I did 1 and 2.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
which one? 1 is the top.
Top.
1 is the top.
2 is the.
This is number
Y'all are
1.
losing me.
Yeah.
This is number 2.
Yeah. Now he's got it.
Okay. Then this one.
They're beautiful. I do love
they
the
are
idea of
beautiful.
hanging 3 together would be really nice.
Okay, there's not a bad.
I know.
Makes me feel guilty. I'm like an idiot. Has anyone been to Coverly to see the city of the Studios?
I've
you been there?
seen a few commissioners there.
So the next time we just have to remind each other that's when it, because it's pretty cool.
The open
It's
studio.
during Open
The
Studios, I
Silicon Valley
think.
Open
Okay.
Studios
Okay, I've been, but it's
event
closed.
weekend is coming up. It's going to
Oh.
be in May 21st, 22nd.
Will you send us a, or in our May
Absolutely.
meeting we can just,
Absolutely.
because it is a neat thing to do.
Yes.
So the votes would suggest that number 1 has more support.
Okay.
Oh,
we
I
have-
move that we accept the gift of number 1, otherwise known as Sienna, from Nancy White into our collection.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Burnt Sienna.
Okay, so let the debate begin on Love is Blue and Sea Light.
This is so, okay.
Now we have names, right?
Yeah.
Love is
Love is Blue, Sea Light.
Does anyone have any comments? This is our first gift from her.
That's right.
Okay.
Because she's new and she's not due to donate, but she's been so grateful for her experience at Coverly that she was actually just eager to go ahead and give us something that she's been so productive since she's had that studio space, and she's really enjoying it. She's become quite an advocate for the program. So and I know that you've met her. She's really a delightful presence in the Coverly studios.
That's great. Yeah, and she has great lighting in there. And okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because that looks almost a little more washed out than the printout. There's more depth there in both of them.
You're saying this is overexposed relative to what's here? It's closer to the print?
In general, all of the images
look
a little more washed out, and the print is a little truer to what the actual pieces look like.
Any
Michael is a very
comments, thoughts?
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
I'm 0 for 2.
Yeah, yours are a little too purple. I guess we printed on different.
Yeah,
No,
because
this is-
mine printed like this.
Oh.
wow.
right, mine's super purple.
Yes.
They're
Yeah,
not
yeah.
purple, they're
It's a
blue.
little
Oh.
misleading.
They're still pretty.
Okay.
Very pretty.
I didn't see that.
No one is inspired to share a comment or.
I made 2 comments. I'm gonna.
I did too.
All right, then I'm going to suggest we do our last secret ballot,
By title?
indicating either love or C.
Ooh.
It's a can't lose proposition.
Right, yeah. So they only have to make one donation in their whole, even if they're there for 13 years? Or every X number of years you give a donation?
There have been a number of iterations of the requirement. It used to be that they had to donate one for every term that they were there.
Is the term 4 years?
Well,
Oh, okay.
it's been different
Changing,
terms,
okay.
but these are the new rules
Yeah.
that have been set since Coverly was sort of relaunched.
Uh-huh.
So it's one at the end of their first term.
First term. And nothing after that. Yeah. Oh.
It's compulsory. There's some gray area in the way it's worded.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering.
We encourage the donations and really appreciate them.
Yeah.
Strongly encouraged.
Strongly encouraged, yeah.
They-
I was wondering
we
if her
stand
third of
over
the
with our
triptych might
tools.
come in the future. That you wait
They benefit too.
patiently.
I mean, they have work in the
Yeah.
Palo Alto.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Okay, C took it.
Okay. I move that we agree to add C light to the collection.
I'll
Glad
second
you don't
that.
have your own gallery.
I second it.
No, she didn't hear me.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye. It's exciting. We have some wonderful new art in
That
the
is
collection.
Yes.
Really exciting. Thank you guys very much for vetting these. These are great selections.
Thank you. It's one of the fun things that you get to do as staff and as a commissioner, but to go select what pieces come into the collection. Pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
now that the voting is over, I just have a quick, so did they give you like more than 2 options, or did many of them give you?
Yeah, how
like
does that work?
I don't know if you're allowed to share.
So generally, they meet with staff and they offer a couple of different options. And frequently, there are considerations as to why staff may not want to take some of those on, that the maintenance burden may be too high, the content may be too challenging for public display, or there are various considerations as to why staff might not bring that forward to the commission. So if we strongly feel like there is one solid recommendation, we'll bring that. But if there's an option between a couple of great pieces, it's fun to get to bring it to the commissioners and let you all decide.
But they usually give you like a couple to choose from. Usually. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Okay, so now we move on to our next order of business, which is the election of officers, which we do each year for the chair and vice chair. And at least correct me if I have this if I don't have this right. We have nominations, and then for one position, and then people submit a vote under the same format that we did for our art selection, and then you announce the results, and then we move on to the second one.
Right.
Okay.
So I believe, does everyone have one of these with their packet or no? Not okay.
Oh, the
Okay,
guidelines.
so I'll talk everyone through it. So the outgoing chair explains the general duties and responsibilities of the chair, including the monthly time commitment necessary to facilitate meetings. The chair opens the floor to nominations for the position of chair. Commissioners nominate one commissioner at a time. The person nominated must be present at the meeting. A commissioner may enter their own name in nomination. The person offering the nomination can explain why they have nominated the person or why they would be the appropriate for the position. The chair asks the nominated person if they'd be willing to accept the nomination. Commissioners continue to nominate additional candidates. With each nomination, the chair asks the person nominated if they are willing to accept the nomination. When there are no further nominations on the floor, the chair asks for, or a commissioner offers, a motion to close nominations. The motion is seconded. The commission votes verbally to close the nominations. And then that's where we go into paper ballots. And then we repeat the process for vice chair.
Got it. Any questions on the process?
This happens annually? Because it seems like it was a shorter.
It was just January.
Was it?
Right?
So
When did we
came in April.
Yeah, you were at Kathleen's. Well, yeah, no, they weren't.
It does
We
seem like
watched,
just
I watched
yesterday.
some of
though.
those.
Yeah,
They probably
April
did
or
too.
May.
Okay. So for those of you who aren't that familiar with it, as a chair and actually vice chair, there's a planning meeting that happens about 10 days prior to this meeting where we discuss the agenda, and you plan for, it's about an hour call each time prior to the meeting, in addition to the meetings, and then it's nice to go to other events in the same way that you would as a commissioner. I don't know that it's substantively different. For other things that you choose to do on your own, that's things that you choose to do on your own, but it's not a significant increase in your time commitment relative to the role as a commissioner. All right.
So whenever you're ready, you can open the floor for
The
nomination.
floor is open for nomination.
And it's possible to serve more than 1 year, correct? As chair and vice chair?
Yes, it's possible. Yep. Okay,
I
Bill.
nominate Jim for chair. I think it's important for a chair to have 2 years, especially policies and things that are going forward. We've got the public art master plan coming into place. With Jim as being chair now for a year, he's gone through that, and now as we start to implement these things, he's got that year behind him, and I think it's important that we have that continuity in the chair position for next year.
Okay, I accept the nomination. Thank you.
I would just voice agreement. It seems a little, of course, we came on late, but it seems so quick after 12 months, so I'd like to nominate Jim to continue.
Are there any other nominations?
All right. Then the nominating is closed.
Can we do this by acclamation? We need a ballot.
Ballot?
So we're closing the nominations.
We're closing
So
nominations.
Move.
one
We need a
candidate.
move second.
I
Vote to close.
move
the-
to close the nomination.
I second.
Okay. Right. So all in favor of closing the nomination?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Would you like us
And
to vote?
do you need paper ballots?
I think you.
Is it
gotta
process?
really-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a
Okay.
process.
I gotta learn the
Yeah,
process.
we'll
Takes
do
2
that.
years.
Can I have my grocery list on the back?
She's got, you want some extra paper?
Just need a recycle.
Yeah.
reuse.
As long
the
as you
spirit of
bought
our
everything.
tool.
It'll be a
Yeah.
name
Yeah.
or a yay or nay, but.
Yeah.
What do you want to do, term paper?
One candidate.
Okay, do I have everybody?
Oh, did you turn yours in? Amanda?
I did. Okay.
All right.
I think I'm on the winning side of this one.
Okay. 1, 5, 6, 7, and it is unanimous.
Oh my
Congratulations. Chair Nicole.
All right, so now we move to the second order of business for this item, which is the nomination for vice chair. And so we're now officially open. I nominate Ben to continue in his role as vice chair and has done a great job. And, I agree the continuities make sense, and as we have the master planning piece coming up, I think it's a good move.
That's a good point.
Yeah, accept.
Other nominations?
Oh, making it easy.
Yeah.
I agree, and Ben has been really helpful to me explaining, as a new commissioner, helping me with the process, and I know you are very interested in the strategic plan, so I think it's great that you can serve as vice chair.
All right, do we have a motion to close the nominations?
So moved.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now we move to our secret ballots.
Okay.
Maybe also remove.
Okay. I think I have everybody. Seven, and unanimous. Congratulations, Vice Chair Bianchi.
Okay, we have ended the voting portion and we'll move on to the non-action portion of the agenda. We have 2 items left, items 4 and 5, updates on the bike bridge and what's going on with the beautiful Narduli. He's actually turned around, looks really cool right now. It's really neat. I like actually the way it looks through the filtered kind of rice paper of the. So take it away, bike bridge.
So, so I'll stay on topic, and it'll be brief anyway. So, the update on the status of the 101 Bike Pedestrian Bridge project is that they did relaunch the call for builders and architects for the bike pedestrian bridge. I believe that proposals are due on Tuesday. If on Monday they determine that they haven't gotten adequate interest, they may extend the call. But for now, I believe it is still scheduled to close on Tuesday. So once they have a designer on board for that bike pedestrian bridge, then we can move forward with our call to artists. So we have a drafted call that's been sort of waiting in the wings for a while now, and so we're anxious to get that project started because it could be a really exciting way to integrate public art into a pretty major project that'll have some big visibility. So,
Sorry, go ahead.
The when there was the design competition earlier, and there were 3 proposals, there was a winning proposal that was not the same as the proposal that the city council ended up selecting.
That's correct.
And then changing and stopping, right? So the one that won the design competition, is that design team still at the table at this point? Are they responding with this? Are they responding to the call?
To the new call?
Mm-hmm.
Last time I checked, I do not believe they have.
Okay.
So.
And can you just
Out of curiosity.
Yeah, and really we won't know because a lot of the proposals tend to come in at the last minute. So.
Can they resubmit what they already submitted? That one?
Well, it would have to fit in with the parameters of the new call.
Okay.
So, in looking at that new call, and I know there were some concerns with that design, and so they know that resubmitting that same design, they're likely to have some of the same concerns come from the community.
Mm.
And who issues that call? The Parks and Rec or?
No, it's
Who's it under?
it's in Public Works.
Public Works.
Yeah.
And is the public art piece of it, is it done in parallel or it's sequential? It's one necessarily, so it's after it's been selected. When is the public art call for this?
Well, as soon as we know the team and have a very rough design at that point, but once we have that team on board, then we would work with them to find what are the best opportunities for an artist to integrate with the bridge, what kind of design are we working with, in broad strokes, so that an artist, you might select a pool of artists that can integrate with that style of bridge.
Right, okay.
Considering right now it's blue sky,
Blue
we have
sky.
no idea. It doesn't make sense to go through an artist selection at this point. So
Well, the
that's
sooner-
usually when we do it.
The sooner the better.
Yep.
To get the
But
artists
as soon
on
as
board.
we've identified who the design team is for the project, we like to get them in. Same with, with buildings.
Right.
Once you've got an architect and you've got a concept design, bringing the artist in at that time is really the best way to go about it. Okay. Any other questions about the bike pedestrian bridge? Okay. Should I move on to Susan?
Yes,
Arduli?
sorry, please move on to the last item.
You were admiring the artwork, weren't you?
It's appropriate given the topic.
So, as you can see behind us in the lobby, we have the soft launch of Susan Narduli's Conversation. And so we have a few weeks to get to know it and the programming there. So there we are on Monday. I'm standing there with our city manager, Jim Keene, who's been very excited to see the project go up and has been a big supporter of it. So we're getting to know the equipment. We're going to have this, we're going to have an event on March 2nd. My charge to you as commissioners is to come by and, bring friends, come see it, load it up with pictures. There is a website where you can submit images and text remotely as well. It's at conversationpaloalto.gov. Again, we need to, sort of test it and find out what kinks and quirks there might be, so we can have it all worked out in the next month or so. So go explore, use it, report back to us what issues you're finding, because staff wants to know. But the piece has many different scenes, and the bubbles and the elements respond differently and move differently depending on how much traffic there is, depending on the scene as well. So if you see the different color bubbles, the green feeds are all Palo Alto specific. So those are from the City of Palo Alto Twitter feed. And if you're posting something about Palo Alto in that kiosk on the far side, you would push the green button and then type in your comment. So it would appear green and with all the local items. The blue items are all national. So those are pulled from the New York Times Twitter feed. So if you're commenting on more of a national issue, you may want to push the blue button before you submit it so that it appears with all the other national content. And then the ones to the right, they look kind of white from here. They're actually kind of a lavender, light purple. Those are global issues, and those are that Twitter feed is through the BBC. And the interactive kiosk is just on the far side over there. So there's a camera up top, so you can, as you touch the screen, you'll have an option to either enter a comment or on the right-hand side to take your picture and then submit it to the wall. So that is the update, and we're really excited to see it come up. Are there any questions about the artwork?
So right now, we can go to that website and try to submit the conversation paloalto.gov.
It should be up and running by now.
Okay.
The images, the way we had to configure it is the images have to be submitted via Twitter.
Mhm.
So somebody's going to have to show me how to Twitter an image, quite frankly. But it's
Image
that
is like
was the
Twitter.
safest
Twitter
way.
handle? There's a Twitter handle?
There is a tag, and I have to look it back up. I think it's on that website when you go to Conversation Palo Alto and you
Okay.
click on it. It auto-populates with the Twitter handle for it. So it would also be fun to see what comes in through that
Mhm.
that avenue as well.
Now, I have a question and a concern, and I brought this up earlier. One is First Amendment rights have to be protected
Mhm.
in this, but then also you have problems with profanity
Mm-hmm.
and pictures as well. So how
Mhm.
do those get filtered? How
Mhm.
are they gonna, if you put something in, does it go and automatically go up and then gets pulled if it's a problem, or how is that gonna work?
It's complicated depending on the avenue in which it comes in. So the brief answer is anything that is submitted remotely has to be approved by a person. So especially the images.
So with the Twitter handle, you can do that you can filter it that way.
Yes.
Okay.
So those, there are several of us with access. We go in and approve images before they ever show up on the wall. So the second thing is there's a very, very robust filtration system on any of the text that goes in.
Even if I put something in over here, that gets filtered out?
Yes.
Okay.
Any text that's coming into the wall is filtered, and the list of things that are filtered is phenomenally long. So, so that is very robust, and we can add to it at any time if we find, oh, this is a new something that's a problem. We can add it in a matter of minutes.
Okay.
And make sure it doesn't get through.
But then
We do have the ability to remove anything from the wall. If
Okay.
something somehow gets up there, we can remove it. So some of the text on the kiosk reminds people to keep your comments civil, that personal attacks will not be tolerated. And there's a, what is it? The terms of use are on our Palo Alto page. So it lists all of those things, and the artist has the ultimate right to curate what becomes part of the artwork. So really, it's Susan Nardulli's name, and it's got her copyright on it. So she's the ultimate authority of what becomes a permanent part of the fabric of the artwork.
All right.
So I have two questions. Is the city hall open 24 hours?
No, it isn't.
So is this constantly running even if the city hall is closed? It's not going to shut. Will it shut off?
It's
at
on a
any-
timer.
It is on timer.
hmm It's on a timer. It shuts off, I believe, at 11 p.m. and goes on at 7 a.m. The building hours are posted on the front of the building, and but it is open later on nights that there are meetings. So some evenings the building is open quite late when there's a council meeting going late.
Who can change the feed? Whether you go city-specific or like this?
Or the art wall.
Yeah.
City staff can do that. So myself, people from Public Works, all the tech folks, because sometimes we have overflow for meetings. We may want to stream a meeting, so we can do that really at the touch of a keypad. It changes the feed.
Okay. We got the Super Bowl coming up.
No.
I mean, and that could be, this is kind of halfway between San Francisco and Levi Stadium.
But can it be
so-
broadcast? Like,
You're
is that
going to need to
legal?
bring a sofa.
But can you,
People going through the area and
broadcast it?
stuff, so.
Can you legally broadcast this?
No, I'm not talking about broadcasting the Super Bowl, but content about the Super Bowl.
I was wondering about the lag, like when you do put something in, how
Yeah.
long do you wait to sort of see it on
Most of the text pops up. It depends on what screen it's in, is the short answer. But mostly what it tries to do is pop up immediately whatever you put up. But it doesn't always function that way. This is part of the getting to know the piece on which screens. For instance, if you take an image there, it will automatically pop up there for a few seconds with a ring around it before it goes to get batch approved.
I see.
So it's up for 10, 15 seconds, and then it goes into the batch approval. So you can have the instant gratification of, oh, look, there's my picture, but then we've got to approve it. So it's not up there long.
Two questions. One is, you mentioned that it changes based on the traffic. Do you mean the foot traffic in the area, and so there's cameras? When you say traffic, you mean the posting activity?
Meaning if there's something huge taking place nationally
Then they should-
and the Twitter is really robust,
And it adjusts.
sometimes they'll adjust the speed and it'll push out, say, all the green ones and all the white ones.
Okay,
You know, so they respond differently.
got it. So but the timing at which the pixels move across the screen, that's at a stasis. It's at a same. Doesn't look like it's like all of a sudden it's fast and then.
Some of them do.
Oh,
Some
they are,
of them
okay.
speed up and slow down. Right now you've got this subtle bubbling from the bottom, and then other times you get into clusters, and sometimes they'll all start to flow one side or the other.
Okay.
They all respond differently.
And the second question: can you do you have the ability from your desktop to just show what it looks like when you flip it into the other mode?
No, I can't. I have to go back to the server room and change it. And
You have to go to a server room. There's not like some password access.
there will be. There isn't right now.
Okay. Thank you.
There will be.
Other questions? Okay, thank you. It's super exciting. I'm really fired up. I think it's beautiful.
Really
It's
exciting.
beautiful,
Yeah.
yeah, it's cool. And I can't wait to bring the kids to see this, you know, it's really
We need
a piece
faces.
for all ages, so it's great.
Smiling faces. Or even funny faces.
Yeah.
It did take a
Well,
while.
it's
It did
here.
take a while.
Any announcements? You mentioned a couple dates. The second is the Narduli installation.
We do
May-
have, we have a couple of dates coming up. Of course, I can't find the piece of paper I had. So next week, we have a couple of community meetings we're doing. We have one on Wednesday, the 27th.
From 6 to 7 p.m. at Bay Cafe.
At the Bay Cafe, and that is regarding Joyce Sue is gathering input from community members about the redesign for her concept for artwork at the golf course. So if any of you would like to attend, that would be great. So it should be, an interesting meeting. She'll have a chance to present a little bit about her previous work. I'll talk a bit about the process that led us to her as our project artist. And then we're really just soliciting input. What are the kinds of things we need to be sensitive of?
It's here on the 27th, or which?
The golf course.
It's going to be at the golf course.
It's out at the cafe there at the golf course. And then the following evening, we have a public art master plan committee, the steering committee meeting. So we're really excited about that, and we should have a draft of the master plan to distribute to them soon to review.
Right.
And then based on the input that they give at that meeting, then they're planning to come to the Public Art Commission next month. So then the commission can have a chance to weigh in and make lots of notes. Was there anything else?
The Narduli on March 2nd, is that going to be an all-day event, or is there going to be some point where there's going to be some words?
I believe what we're looking
Dedication.
at is an early evening event, so probably like a 6 p.m. event, 5:30, 6 p.m. event. I know we will have some people who want to speak, and we were talking about trying to find a way to make it really fun. So we want to have some music. We need some music, and we need
Good
some
DJ
sort of
or
like
something.
Yeah.
something to sit
know.
on
Brian's a
and
DJ.
hang out. So if there are any commissioners who want to
Has
get
the
into
whole
some
sound
party
equipment.
planning,
Your husband is?
please let us
Yeah.
know, because
But
we're
he'll
really
bring like
happy to have
records,
some
like whatever you want.
someone roll up their sleeves and help
You
us
have a
plan a
business.
party.
Sound nice.
So we'd love that.
Did you just hear?
Brian has a business with his friend. They have all the equipment and do, DJing or sound reinforcement for bands.
Oh, that's we
He
can.
was actually very upset in the dining hall that there was another sound system.
If it's
that was
can that be done without a conflict of interest kind of
Oh,
thing,
yeah.
or?
Can Pearl
Well,
come too?
I'd have to follow up with details. We
Yeah.
can follow up offline and
yeah,
see what works.
yeah.
That's great.
Then
Will you
it's not
have
like
food
a
at
standing
this?
around silent
Yeah.
fest.
Yeah.
No, we we're planning on
I'm
music.
sorry.
We're just not sure how.
Sorry, I wasn't meaning. You know what I mean? But like it becomes like this is like
Yeah.
silent eating fest, and then like, it's like,
This is another, this is a call to artists. We want to make sure the commission's aware. We've got cards on several places up and down the table. So the exhibition dates are February 27th to March 12th. And the details of the open call are on the back. But in short, artists are supposed to submit their artworks. Nadia, you want to jump in on the process? Because I don't see it here.
Right, so this is the first community exhibition that is organized by CASP artists. The submissions are open to all artists residing, working, having a personal relationship with Palo Alto in particular, and also in San Mateo and Santa Clara counties. So all interested artists are welcome to submit their works. It's one work per artist. There are 2 drop-off days, February 19th and 20th. The cabaret artist will install the exhibition. It will be open for the entire month of February. There will be designated gallery days seated by cabaret artists. The full call is available on the CASP website, which is listed on the back of this flyer, but it's thecityofpaloalto.org/CASP.
And you said the drop-off days are the 19th and the
19th and 20th. They're listed here on the flyer, and the full call. There's also like a waiver release form. It's all available. It can be downloaded on the website.
We're on the on the flyer.
The flyer in the back. If you go to this website.
Oh, but it's not listed on okay, I thought you meant 19th and 20th.
The full application form can be downloaded on the website.
Perfect. Thank you.
And so
This
to go.
looks great.
Thank you. This flyer was designed by one of the cabaret artists. So it's fantastic.
And so the opening is Saturday.
Alto designed this.
Saturday, the 27th of February, and then subsequent days it's noon to 5 on Saturdays only.
Exactly. Yes, since it's a community effort and it's it's really supported by cabaret artists who are volunteering for this event. There'll be staffing 2 consecutive Saturdays to watch the space, make sure all the artworks are safe while being viewed by the public.
Awesome.
So if you know any artists who are interested in applying, please share the word. We have a lot of interest and we'd like to hear from our community. And the theme is public alchemy. It's a very open-ended theme.
It looks like public
It's
enemy,
up to
but-
your
That's cool,
interpretation.
too. I love that.
P.E.
Thank you.
All right.
That's awesome.
I think that covers it. So thank you very much.
Thanks.
And time is
You're officially adjourned.
All right.
Wonderful. Great job,
Very
everybody.
good. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Ben and Kim.
Nice to have
Great.
everyone here.
I know.